Hello Sangha, welcome to the Abbots Address. Today is Friday, October 21st, 2016. So, a question came in, please address fear. And then pretty quickly, how about doubt? Doubt raised its head after fear showed up. And then interestingly, a query about not running from my practice instead of sitting through it. So I'd like to address those kind of three together because they all kind of are kind of the same thing in a way. They relate. So I'd like to, in talking about fear and so on, I would like to bring our attention to the Heart Sutra. Okay, remember in the Heart Sutra it says, no hindrance in the mind. No hindrance, therefore no fear. Far beyond delusive thinking. Right here is nirvana. No hindrance in the mind, no hindrance, therefore no fear. Far beyond delusive thinking. Right here is nirvana. Or this is nirvana. So this is pointing us in a very clear direction, see. The way that we experience fear, and I mean actual, fear is to be known clearly and to be understood. Now, I want to stick up a little bit for healthy fear. Okay, there is such a thing as healthy fear. It's not like all fear is completely pathological and a problem. Okay, so there are certain things that it's good to be afraid of, like, hanging out in burning buildings or doing jumping jacks in front of Mack trucks as they come at you. I mean, you should be afraid of that stuff. Jumping off rooftops, this kind of thing. Okay, so that's not actually what we mean, though. That's actually not what we mean. That kind of fear, that's a healthy sense of, needing to stay away from life-threatening stuff. That's an evolutionary benefit. I'm all for it. Okay, so that's the first thing. That kind of fear, be glad you have. That's something you want to have. It's the equivalent of a person who's lost sensation in their body. Let's say for whatever reason you've lost the sensation in your legs and your feet. Well, you're likely to hurt your legs and feet because you'll be doing things that hurt them and you can't tell, and so you press on and then damage occurs. So folks that have lost sensation in various body parts have to take extra steps to make sure they protect it because you're not getting the signals of pain to tell you to stop. And so there's a kind of emotional or intellectual mind equivalent to that where your inner intelligence is saying this is something to stay away from and be careful about. And so that's a good thing. But the fear that we're probably talking about is the unhealthy kind, right? Which is just kind of a self-looping dread, a kind of a what will become of me kind of angst kind of thing, or just sort of like a general feeling tone of fearfulness that can become sort of the dominating quality of a person's mind states on the whole. And same thing with doubt. There's a healthy version of doubt. Should I really eat this? Is this really the right thing for me to do? Should I actually pick a fight here? I'm not sure that's what I should be doing. That kind of doubt is fine. But the larger doubt of, like, dealing with doubt about oneself or doubt about the practice, this kind of thing, well, that's another matter. See? So what the Heart Sutra is pointing us to is the root causes of the unwholesome versions of these things. Chronic disabling fear, unreasonably founded, this kind of stuff. So it's hindrance in the mind. In other words, that is to say that the way that I think about things, the way I see things, what I focus on in my internal awareness can cause great fear and anxiety. So for example, if you're just sitting there neutrally or thinking about some positive thing, then you will not have fear. The only way that you have fear is that you create some image or story or something in the mind, and then you react to that, see? And the root cause of fear is separation. It's a because we're disconnected, because we're separate from, there's a gap, there's a loneliness, there's a sense of harm that can come. And so this separation is there and the fear is there. So the way to clear through fear, first of all, is to see it, to be able to recognize when an unwholesome mind state of fear is taking over the landscape, and that there's actually nothing that this serves. This is not fair warning of anything reasonable. This is just kind of conditioning playing itself out to no good, see. So you see that, and then you acknowledge that. You acknowledge, okay, a state of fear is rising. A fear feeling is rising. See? So you see it and you acknowledge it. Maybe note that, okay, there's that old feeling of fear is rising again now. And then simply let it be. Let it be, and then gently return to the actual experience of this moment, which can, usually the go-to thing here is the breath. See? So see it, acknowledge it, let it be, and come back to the breath. See? And in this very simple way, startlingly similar, if not the same to, Zazen instruction, right, is a way of training the mind. So you train the mind to actually come to its senses, come to our senses, and to pay attention to what is so. Now, another way that fear can show up is that it shows up as a physical sensation in the body. So there's mental images and storylines of language and images of pictures. Usually, most of it's kind of like a visual thing, but sometimes it's linguistic or a little bit of both. And that's where you see, acknowledge, let be, and return to the breath, and just focus on the sensation of the breath. But another way that fear can show up is actually as a physical sensation in the body, that sort of gut, the tummy ache, or depending on your structure and how your past experience, it can be in different places in the body. So you might actually be sitting there and suddenly get a physical sensation that you then identify as fear, or that triggers a fear response. And so there, the practice is simply to feel the feeling, to see the feeling, the sensation in the body, acknowledge it. A sensation of dull ache is rising in my abdomen. a fearful sensation is present in the body. And just note that it rises. See it, acknowledge it, note it, and just let it be. Let it go. And gently bring your awareness back to the breath. So it's the same thing. It's just not visual or linguistic. Now it's kinesthetic. See? But the same process. And so in this way, what we do is we cut off the cascading and the exponential increasing of this initial sensation or thought formation turning into a full-out panic attack. See? Which can happen, because what happens is let us say we have a visual image of something fearful, or a memory of something fearful, or a little chunk of a story comes through, whatever, and then a little bit of sensation happens at the body, and the body sensation reinforces the mental image, and this happens so fast that we don't even notice that that's what's going on. It's just sort of suddenly we're afraid, and we're kind of afraid all the time. So we hold our bodies in certain ways, and we have certain habits of mind that encourage this. See? So you can cut the nutrition off from that tree, that fear tree. You can cut the nutrition off from that by simply noting it, acknowledging it, see it, acknowledge it, let it be, let it go, and come to the breath. The breath is the great solvent that can wear down this root of fear, this root of doubt, this root of wanting to just get up and run, really. See? And as simple as that is, it's incredibly effective. Because what that does is that takes you from a fear state that's starting to run itself. And again, I'm assuming that for the conversation, this is a fear that has no healthful or wholesome basis in reality and has no useful service to provide you. I should be afraid of holding a lighter to my beard. That's a good thing. I don't want to preclude that. But we're talking about just unfounded stuff that isn't helpful, right? Like I'm afraid of my life. I'm afraid of my, whatever, the next step in my life might be and I can't move. That kind of thing. See? So, see it, acknowledge it, let it be, and then gently but clearly bring yourself back to the breath. And that goes from a fear state to a neutral state. That's what we're doing. We're going to neutral. So, from panic to just fear, from fear to just anxiety, from anxiety maybe down to just neutral. Kind of like that with the breath. And then once you're neutral in the breath, then you can start making positive movement into wholesome states, states of fearlessness, states of courage, states of bravery. The bodhisattva requires a great deal of bravery, to be honest, a great deal of courage, a great deal of, and it doesn't have to be aggressive or mean or anything like that. In fact, it shouldn't be, but it does demand a great deal of courage to really face, first of all, to face ourselves. To face ourselves is the hardest work we shall ever do. And what I find 9.5 times out of 10 is that if a person is running into a place where they're starting to like back away from the practice, and for reasons they can't really articulate, I don't know why, I just don't feel like it. Well, a lot of time what's happening is the person is getting closer and closer to actually seeing themselves, actually facing their own stuff in a way that they haven't done before. And the ego is like, pull the ripcord, I'm out of here. I want to stay safe. And so this is all mostly happening at the unconscious level. But oftentimes that's the case. In fact, it can be an auspicious mark when a person's practice starts to dry up and they start to have a little bit of aversion to it. I know this might sound odd, but actually a lot of times what's going on is the person's getting ready to really see something. Their unconscious mind is like starting to like push back a little bit because it's not sure about all of this, and it's not a conscious behavior, it's just the way our defense mechanisms play out. And almost invariably, if the person just hangs tight and just continues on with their practice, then this barrier is seen through, see? And once that happens, now the source of that fear is gone, see? So this business about how do I continue working with my practice even though some part of me is disenchanted or uninterested or kind of apathetic, or maybe even getting more towards the aversive, where I don't like this kind of stuff. And I always have to put in softeners like, oh, if it isn't right for you, then find what's right for you, and that's true. Sure, that's true. But if you're actually a real student, then the answer is a little different, which is like you're up against the edge of a breakthrough. Hang tight, stay with it, be gentle, but be firm, and keep on, because you're just on the other side of the treasure map. See, if you stay with it, if you have fidelity to your vows, if you have commitment to your practice, this requires a bit of steel in the spine and a bit of gumption, right? It takes some heroism to actually confront yourself and stay with that, because there's a lot there. In fact, it's all there. But good on you. That's exactly right. So as you begin to cultivate the chutzpah and the gumption and the sass, I guess, the clarity, the focus to be able to sit with it, to stay with your practice, even if it's not getting pats on the head and how wonderful you are, or everything's warm and fuzzy all the time, or we're not, get on to the stage of practice we wish we were, or whatever that is. Just stay with it. And that discipline itself gives you an immense power that applies directly to navigating and dealing with our lives in a way that is more and more workable. If we keep running and running and running and backing away, then everything becomes less and less workable because we're practicing escaping. We're practicing disassociating, and we're practicing copping out. Well, that's not going to, my marriage isn't going to work like that. My being a dad doesn't work like that. Holding my professorship here at the university doesn't work like that. Not really. Nothing works that way. See? So who knew? But it turns out to be the case that if you take care of this one thing, which is your commitment to your practice, to the Buddha Dharma, then that nourishes and feeds every other aspect of your life. It really does. It's not some isolated little thing. The mind of separation, the mind of fear wants to say, oh, my Zen practice is over here, and my profession is here, and my relationship is there, and my money is over here, and all these little boxes. Nope, it's not actually the case. Doesn't have to be the case, put it that way. When you really realize your practice, then it's there for you in all those areas. And the fear of flight turns into the joy of flying, really. And that's when we're free to live our lives. So go for it. Go for it. See the fear, see the doubt, acknowledge it, let them be, and just come back to the moment and trust yourself. Trust the process, trust yourself, stay with the practice. Okay, so that's that. Now, announcements. There's a couple of things. This Sunday, the newly forming Warmth Committee, the Warmth Committee, is happening. And I love that title. It's the main charge of the Warmth Committee is to make sure that during the Sunday service, and presumably Wednesday, but mainly the Sunday service, that there's a team of folks who are focused on making sure that the environment is warm and welcoming, particularly to the folks that are there for the first time or two or three. And it's an important charge. Every one of us that's now firmly members of the Sangha and grateful for the opportunity to say that that's the case, we were completely new to the place once, and probably we can remember how it felt. Maybe odd, maybe weird, maybe confused, maybe lonely, maybe whatever. Maybe obviously right from the first minute, that could be too. But the job of the Warmth Committee is to really help people for whom this is a good fit find that that's the case through connections. So please consider yourself as a part of this Warmth Committee. We would love to have as many people involved as possible to help bring this area into focus and increase it. Kinko and Shogun are in the lead with this, and I believe for this meeting, as we say, will also be there, the President of the Leadership Council. So thank you all for those efforts, and I really look forward to seeing how that unfolds. Then also, at the same time, we've got to have a tent breakdown party, event out at the farm, because the tent that has served us decently enough for the summertime is still there. Every time the Sangha is there to help put the thing down, it turns out to be rain or whatever, and we can't pack the tent away. So the thing is still up, and it needs to be taken down, packed up, and put in the barn so that it's nice and fresh and ready for us next season. And then also, there's a matter of a couch that's been donated to the temple. So we need some folks to help pick up the couch and get it to the temple, and we'll see where it fits and how it fits and what to do with it. So there's the deal, okay? Class starts at 9:30 in the morning on Sunday, orientation at 10:30, sutra service at 11, then Warmth Committee, and tent breakdown and couch dealing. There we are, a day in the life of the Dharma. Thank you, everybody, for your practice. Please stay with it. Don't be afraid. Don't doubt.